Emily Harper would remember that afternoon for the rest of her life. Not because something dramatic or loud happened, but because of the quiet moment that caught her completely off guard, one she never saw coming. It began so simply, with her walking into a house she had visited hundreds of times. But the way her life shifted in the next few minutes felt as if a door, she never meant to open, had suddenly swung wide. The day was cool, the kind of crisp October weather that made small towns across the U.S. feel soft and alive. Maple leaves drifted across the sidewalk as Emily parked in front of the Harper home. She was only there to pick up her best friend Lily for their weekend plans. Nothing unusual, nothing special. But from the moment she stepped out of her car, she felt something different in the air, like the world was holding its breath. She shook it off, chalking it up to the chill in the wind. She walked to the front door, knocked out of habit, then pushed it open like she had hundreds of times before. "Lily?" she called, her voice echoing slightly in the warm hallway. There was no answer. Emily took a few steps inside, expecting to hear music from Lily's room or the sound of her rushing around. Instead, she heard something else, a soft voice humming, low and calm, drifting from the living room. Familiar, but not Lily's. Emily paused, confused but not alarmed, and followed the sound. Then she saw him, James Harper, Lily's dad, and everything inside her shifted in a way she wasn't prepared for. He was standing near the large living room window, sunlight pouring across him in a warm golden beam. He wasn't doing anything dramatic, just adjusting a loose curtain rod with a screwdriver, but the simplicity of it made the moment startlingly intimate. His sleeves were rolled to his elbows, revealing strong, weathered forearms. His hair was slightly messy, like he had spent the morning working around the house. He looked tired in a gentle, handsome way, the kind of tired that came from responsibility and years of being the steady one for everyone else. Emily froze. She wasn't supposed to look at him like that. She wasn't supposed to feel anything new at all. He was James, quiet, respectful, always kind. Lily's widowed father, who worked long hours and still managed to make their home feel warm. She had known him since she was 13. He had watched her grow up. He had always been polite, supportive, someone she trusted, but in that sunlight, in that still room, she saw a different side of him, one she had never noticed. Or maybe she had, quietly, without admitting it. James turned at the sound of her footsteps. His expression shifted from concentration to soft surprise. "Emily," he said, lowering the screwdriver. "Didn't hear you come in?" His voice was low and warm, and something about the way he said her name made her pulse jump. I thought Lily was here," Emily said, her words catching slightly. She tried to sound normal, but she could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. She just stepped out to her aunt's place. "She'll be back any minute." He gave her a gentle smile, the kind he reserved for people he genuinely cared about. "You doing okay? You look like you saw something shocking." Emily forced a small laugh, hoping he didn't notice how flustered she felt. Was it obvious? Could he see it in her face? She felt warm suddenly, too aware of herself, too aware of him. She didn't know how one simple moment had the power to unbalance her so completely. "I'm fine," she said quickly. "Just long day." He nodded, still watching her in that calm, careful way he always had. "Want some tea while you wait?" Tea, something normal, something harmless, something familiar. She nodded, grateful for the distraction. She followed him into the kitchen, trying to breathe normally. He moved around the room with an easy confidence, opening a cabinet, reaching for mugs, running water into the kettle. Everything about him seemed grounded, steady. And everything about her felt upside down, rough, weak. He asked without turning, pouring the hot water once the kettle finished. "You could say that," she replied. It wasn't a lie. Being 22 wasn't as easy as she had thought it would be. Work stress, relationship confusion, life feeling too big, some days all of it hovered over her. But none of that explained why she couldn't think straight around James suddenly. He handed her a mug. Their fingers brushed for less than a second, barely a touch, but the warmth that shot through her hand made her almost drop it. She hoped he didn't notice. He did. His eyes softened with an emotion she couldn't place. Not flirtation, not confusion, something gentler, something thoughtful. Like he was trying to understand something without pushing too far. "You sure everything's all right?" he asked again, quieter this time. Emily nodded quickly, sipping her tea just to have something to do. She needed her pulse to calm down. She needed her thoughts to stop spinning. She needed Lily to walk in and reset everything. To distract herself, she asked about the house project he was working on. James always had something going: small repairs, improvements, fixing things that didn't really need fixing but gave him something to do. After losing Lily's mom years earlier, he had turned the house into his routine, his comfort. He started explaining the broken curtain rod. Something about the screws being stripped, but Emily barely heard him. She watched the way he spoke, steady, kind, a touch of quiet loneliness beneath his words. She had always known he was a good man. But standing there in that warm kitchen made her realize she had never truly seen him as they talked. The air between them shifted again. Not in a dramatic way, nothing bold, nothing inappropriate, but in a subtle, almost invisible way. A softness, a growing awareness. A quiet understanding that felt new, unexpected, and strangely comforting. And then the front door clicked open. "Dad. I'm back." Lily's cheerful voice echoed through the hallway. Emily nearly sighed in relief and disappointment at the same time. James stepped back slightly, his expression returning to its usual calm. "Living room." He called out. Lily rushed in, full of energy as always. She didn't notice anything off. Why would she? To her, everything was normal. And Emily forced herself to act normal too, even though she felt like she was standing on shifting ground. "You ready for tonight?" Lily asked, grabbing her backpack. "Yeah," Emily replied, trying to steady her voice. "Let's go." But as they walked out, Emily couldn't stop herself from glancing back. James was standing in the doorway, watching them with that familiar, gentle smile. But this time, when their eyes met, something unspoken lingered in the space. Between them, something she didn't know how to name, something she didn't know how to ignore. Emily followed Lily to the car. But her mind was still inside that house, still in that kitchen, still in that sunlight-filled living room, still replaying the moment she saw James in a way she never expected. She told herself it was nothing. Just a strange day. Just a passing feeling. But deep down, she knew better. She walked into the Harper home expecting an ordinary afternoon instead. She walked into a moment that would change everything, and she didn't know whether to run from it or let it pull her in. Emily never expected that a simple weekend visit could feel like stepping into another world. The Harper house had always been familiar, comforting even, but today it carried a weight she couldn't explain. The air inside seemed charged, soft yet electric, and she couldn't shake the thought of the moment on the porch, this small, quiet tension with James, the way his eyes had lingered on hers, the subtle warmth of his concern. It was confusing, unsettling, and oddly thrilling all at once. Lily burst back into the living room, her energy bright as ever, completely oblivious to the storm brewing inside Emily. "Dad? Where are you?" "I'm back," she called, laughing as she dropped her backpack on the couch. Emily felt a sudden wave of relief mixed with disappointment. Relief that normal life was resuming. Disappointment because the unspoken moment she had shared with James was already slipping away, leaving her craving it more than she expected. "Right here," James replied, his voice calm and steady. He moved to greet Lily, and Emily watched him interact with her friend, noticing every small detail she hadn't before. The way he laughed softly, a faint smile tugging at his lips. The easy way he adjusted Lily's coat. The quiet patience in his tone. He was everything she had always admired as Lily's dad. But now she realized there was more, a depth she hadn't fully acknowledged. Emily forced herself to focus on Lily. "Hey, ready for tonight?" she asked, trying to sound cheerful. Lily nodded, still chatting away, unaware of Emily's inner turmoil. They were going to a local fall festival, something they had done together since high school. But the excitement she should have felt was overshadowed by thoughts of James. As they walked toward the car, Emily's mind replayed every detail of the afternoon. The sunlight on his face, the quiet way he had moved, the warmth of his hand brushing hers over the tea mug. She told herself it was innocent, that she was overthinking, but the truth was harder to ignore. Her emotions were tangled confusion, admiration, curiosity, and something deeper she wasn't ready to name. The ride to the festival was filled with Lily's chatter about her week, her friends, the snacks she planned to try. But Emily's attention was elsewhere. She caught herself stealing glances at the road ahead while thinking about the way James had looked at her. Soft and unguarded. A side of him she had never seen before. She shook her head, trying to dismiss it. But the thought lingered. By the time they arrived, the festival was alive with color and energy. Children ran past with painted faces, couples strolled hand in hand, and the scent of caramel apples and cinnamon filled the crisp evening air. Lily immediately ran toward a game booth, dragging Emily along. They laughed, they played, they joined a small crowd for a pumpkin carving contest. For a moment, Emily allowed herself to enjoy the evening, to lose herself in the festival lights, the sound of music, and the scent of autumn. But her mind kept returning to the Harper house. To James, she imagined him reading in the living room, maybe tending to another small project. The quiet rhythm of his life she had always taken for granted. She realized how much she noticed now, the little habits, the thoughtful gestures, the way he carried himself with care. And with every passing moment, the pull she felt grew stronger, an invisible thread connecting her to him even when he was far away. After the festival, they returned to Emily's apartment to drop off Lily's things and get ready for the movie night they had planned. Emily tried to focus on the task at hand, picking the perfect film, arranging snacks, making sure everything was ready, but the earlier encounter weighed on her. She found herself distracted by memories of James's voice, the warmth in his eyes, the subtle, gentle way he had noticed her without pressing. As they settled in for the evening, Emily's phone buzzed. A message from Lily. "Hey, thanks for today. Dad says hi. See you tomorrow." Emily stared at it, heart skipping. Just reading those words brought back the memory of him, the way he had smiled softly, the care he had shown. She typed a quick response, but her thoughts were elsewhere. She felt a strange mix of longing and guilt, quiet tension she hadn't expected to feel. The next morning, Emily decided to take a walk to clear her mind. The streets were quiet, the sky overcast, and the chill in the air matched the unsettled feeling in her chest. She wandered through the neighborhood, replaying every interaction, every glance, every small gesture that had made her heart beat faster than it should have. She knew she couldn't ignore these feelings, even if she tried. They were real and they were growing. Later that day, Emily found herself back at the Harper house. She had no reason to be there except that she wanted to see James again, feel the strange magnetic pull she hadn't been able to shake. Lily was busy helping her aunt with errands, leaving Emily alone with him once more. The house felt quieter than before, the sunlight soft, falling across the furniture in familiar patterns. And there he was, in the kitchen again, moving with calm efficiency as he prepared a cup of coffee. "Emily," he said, noticing her immediately. His smile was warm but measured, polite but curious. "Back so soon? I just wanted to return something Lily left yesterday," she said, holding up a small notebook. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. He took it, brushing his fingers against hers just for a moment. That brief contact sent a ripple through her chest, a subtle but undeniable reminder of the pull she felt toward him. She tried to act casual, but the intensity of her emotions made it nearly impossible. "Thanks," he said softly, handing it back. "You didn't have to come by just for this." "I know," she admitted. I just wanted to see you, I guess." The words slipped out before she could stop them. Her eyes widened in surprise at her own honesty. James froze for a fraction of a second, then smiled gently, a touch more warmly than before. "I'm glad you did," he said. The simplicity of his words carried a weight that made her heart ache. They moved into the living room, sitting across from each other on opposite chairs. Conversation flowed naturally about Lily, about work, about small, everyday things, but beneath the surface, a tension simmered. Every glance, every gesture carried meaning. Emily felt herself drawn to him, fascinated by the quiet strength he displayed, the calm presence that made her feel safe and seen in a way she hadn't realized she needed. Time seemed to pass differently in his presence. An hour felt like minutes, and yet every moment was stretched with unspoken emotion. Emily wanted to speak, to acknowledge the connection she felt, but words failed her. Instead, she allowed herself to simply be near him, to notice the details she had never truly paid attention to: the way he adjusted his shirt sleeve, the slight crease in his brow when he concentrated, the gentle tone of his voice as he spoke. When Lily returned, Emily felt the sudden shift, the pull breaking as her best friend re-entered the room with a cheerful greeting. "There you are. I thought I'd find you both talking about house projects again," Lily said with a laugh. Emily smiled, forcing herself back into normalcy. She chatted with Lily, helped her put away bags, and participated in the small talk, but her mind kept drifting. She noticed James watching her, his expression thoughtful, perhaps sensing her distraction but choosing not to comment. That quiet observation, that subtle attention, made her feel seen in a way that was both comforting and unsettling. Later that evening, Emily found herself alone on the porch again, needing air, needing space to process the feelings that were growing too quickly to ignore. The sky was painted in shades of pink and orange as the sun set, and the cool breeze brushed against her skin, carrying with it the scent of autumn leaves. James appeared in the doorway, his presence quiet, respectful. "Emily, you're out here again?" he said softly, concern in his tone. "Are you all right?" I just needed a moment," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. She looked up at him, noticing the genuine care in his eyes, the softness in his expression. It was a side of him that she hadn't seen before, one that spoke of understanding, patience, and quiet strength. "You've been quiet since you got here," he said gently. "I can tell something's on your mind." Emily hesitated, unsure if she could voice the truth. I don't know what I'm feeling," she confessed finally. "Everything just feels different." James nodded slowly, a small knowing smile touching his lips. "Sometimes life surprises us," he said. "Sometimes feelings do too, and we can't always control them, even if we want to." Her heart raced at his words. She wanted to ask more, to understand what he meant. But just then, Lily's voice called from inside the house. "Emily, Dad, are you out there?" The moment broke instantly. James stepped back, maintaining the calm, collected demeanor he always had around Lily. "We should go in," he said softly, his voice steady, but his eyes betraying a flicker of emotion. Emily nodded, feeling the tension ease slightly, but knowing the connection she felt was far from gone. She followed him inside, careful to maintain normalcy. But her thoughts were tangled with questions, curiosity, and a longing she couldn't yet name. As the night continued, Emily tried to push her feelings aside, focusing on small conversations, simple laughter, and the rhythm of everyday life. But inside, she knew that everything had changed. A quiet, profound shift had occurred in her heart, a moment that began with a simple glance and ended with a silent understanding that some feelings, once awakened, cannot be ignored.